Hey Elliot, how's it going?
Pretty good, Josh. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. You know what? We're up to 50 episodes. Can you believe it?
I cannot. You've stuck with me for 50 episodes, huh?
That's right. Yeah, we're coming up on a year here. I think we had a couple of bonus episodes in there that were shorter. Some of them we counted, some of them we didn't. But as we are coming upon this milestone, I thought it would be fun to kind of go back and recap some of the past episodes, looking through some of the things that maybe we discussed and whether or not our opinions have changed, and also just kind of maybe close the loop on some things if possible. Some things might be still up in the air, but I thought it would be fun to kind of look back and say, what did we talk about? Because a lot of these conversations are just between you and I, and we're trying to figure something out, but often we just left it as like to be continued.
That's right. I mean, I think it would be only fitting for us to redo episode 1 right now, right?
That's right.
I I have not listened to that, but oh goodness, I know that one was I mean, I guess I edited number 1, so I did get to listen to it again, but yeah. Hopefully we're a stone's throw away or further than where we started.
I don't believe I ever listened to that one because we immediately started getting some negative feedback, or not positive feedback, I guess. And
Development opportunities, I believe, is how that is phrased in the corporate world, Josh.
yes, yes, so we had a lot of opportunities. Hopefully we've improved. And I know we did a follow-up episode. It was somewhere in the maybe the early single digits, or in the teens somewhere, where we kind of talked through what we wanted to. It was kind of a reboot of episode one. We talked like, what do we want to accomplish with this podcast? And I think we both set a reminder on our calendars to listen to that as we approach the 1 year mark, which we're still a little bit a ways from, but it'll be interesting to see how we stack up to those expectations that we gave ourselves.
That's right. More lists of lists.
Well, it'll be an opportunity for us to call back to the corporate world. We can rate ourselves and give
Oh
ourselves an
yeah.
evaluation.
That's right. We can give each other our own we can each write our own self-evaluations and then pass it across the table and rate each other,
Yeah.
right? We'll see if you meet expectations this year or if you're an area of concern.
Yeah, I know. I'm uncertain. I don't know. I don't feel very confident about meeting expectations, but
Yeah. My son has a little magic 8 ball car, so I'll give that one a good shake and say, outlook,
yeah.
come back later.
Well, I pulled together a list earlier today of a few episodes that I thought we could touch on briefly, and just kind of go through and see where we currently stand on them. And just for fun, there was three that we did early on that would maybe not be, if we had the choice to make it over again, I don't know that we would have the same type of conversation back to back to back like we did. But I call it the car series, where we talked about like all things cars for 3 episodes, where it was like the price of cars and the insane amount of the debt that people have with cars. And then we talked about maintenance, and we also talked about how my little truck has been so valuable to me and my all my side hustle endeavors. So I just thought it would be fun to mention that I guess we're approximately 9 months later or something like that, that my little red truck is still going strong. It's a Chevy Colorado, nearly 200,000 miles on it. And I'm getting it geared up here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be driving it out to Colorado from Missouri, and then taking the road trip further and heading up to Montana. And a few people have kind of given a little pause whenever they've asked, like, what are you driving, or are you flying, or whatever? And I said, I'm just taking my truck. And they're like, oh, okay. With maybe a not so wise choice with a 200,000 mile car to be taken on a 4,000 mile road trip, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to hang in there and treat me well.
That's right. Otherwise, we all know a mechanic in these two little windows here, right?
Yeah, I'll have to find somebody. It'll be me.
Yeah, it'll be you. Yeah.
So moving on, episode 18, you and I were just talking about this before we hit record, actually. And if any of these you win a strike from the list as we go through them, I can certainly remove them from discussion. But in episode 18, we talked about add on, move, or do nothing. It was titled Elliot's Housing Case Study, Part 1, which,
Yeah, but part one of near infinite series, I think that's generally how my own life decisions go. Is you talked about ruminating in our previous episode, and I too like to ruminate, but hopefully I finally come to some sort of conclusion. So I don't know the answer for certain. I will say today, if you had to ask me, I would say do nothing. I I'm planting the flag in the ground and saying this is the house where we're gonna live for quite a while, and I'm sticking to it.
okay, we'll see.
Yeah, right.
Episode 19 was the follow up to 18. I think we actually recorded this in one conversation and we just turned it into two separate episodes, but it was called Josh's Case Study Part 1 and it was titled Withdrawal Strategy because at the time my wife Laurie was considering dropping down from full-time work to part-time and she is still full-time. She has not we've essentially decided that part-time really didn't make sense for because her employer was essentially she would work one fewer day per week, which would be nice, but she wouldn't get any benefits. She wouldn't have any earned time off or anything like that. So it was if she adds up all of the time off that she earns now, she it essentially equates to one extra day, one day a week she could take off, if that makes sense. Hopefully I explained that correctly.
Yeah, I think I follow you only because I know the situation probably fairly in depth. But yeah,
Yeah.
you know, my feeling on the matter is well known, so I won't rehash it.
So in addition to that, we looked at my expenses and I mentioned in our previous episode, I don't we don't really track our expenses with any level of regularity. We did look at them for 2025. We looked at them for January of 26. We're just pretty confident in knowing what our spending patterns are and having a level of, I guess, funds available should there be lumpiness or emergencies or things like that. So we don't really have any concerns that we need to continue that going forward. So we have a really good idea of what our spending is. And yeah, the withdrawal strategy, I have just a bullet here. I said we have concepts of a plan. I don't know if you know what that quote is in
Yeah,
reference to.
yeah. Oh yeah, no plans to have a plan. Yeah, no, I'm picking up what you're throwing down, Josh.
So I think there's going to be, once she finally does leave, we have sort of a hybrid approach where we're going to have money coming in from a withdrawal strategy from probably a couple of different sources. And I've just like we do, based on if I were to stick my flag in the sand today, I would probably say a portion of it is going to come from 72T, a portion of it is going to come from rental cash flow, a portion of it is going to come from just drawdown on cash reserves and brokerage account and those kind of things, and then continue to do Roth conversions for a number of years until we get to a state where maybe one or two of those things drop off and then we're just living on rental cash flow and retirement drawdown. But that's kind of where we're at right now. And I don't see that changing, but it could.
So my only question in what you just said would be, what is the benefit or thought around doing both a 72T and doing Roth conversions?
Well, if I understand it correctly, so I would not be able to, or I would not need to do a full on like 72T to maximize all of my, or to be available for all of our expenses. It would be just like a fixed income. It would be a portion of our annual income, if you will. And then that would last until 59 and a half. And then the Roth conversions would be so that I can eventually have more money available outside of traditional retirement accounts. and have that available should I need to draw on additional funds after my brokerage account is depleted, after my cash reserve are depleted, and I have lumpiness that my rental cash flow can't support.
Okay. I would say that I know this is kind of on our own list of to-dos, but yeah, I mean, I think this is one that certainly, I mean, I know that I have to do it for myself too, is figure out mechanics of really how what would a withdrawal strategy actually look like and what are the pros and cons of doing certain things. So I think, for lack of a better term, let's put a pin in this one, and we'll have a full episode on this at some point.
Yeah, I agree. We did have a comment on that one. That was another thing I was going to say that we could talk about throughout this episode is just some of the feedback that we've received along the way. And I've been really surprised at some of the really thoughtful and positive feedback that we've had both in Spotify, where we see a lot of our comments come in, also on the YouTube side, and then we also receive emails, which all those opportunities are linked in the show notes. If anybody wants to reach out to us and give us any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, that's always in there. We don't promote that enough, I would say, but I did get a comment from Petra back whenever we did this episode. She said, would there be an option for your wife to work 1 day less per week for, say, 4 or 5 weeks in a row just to see whether or not she likes it? And actually, Laurie has done a pretty good job here lately of figuring out ways to sprinkle in time off where she usually wouldn't. So, like this Thursday, for example, she's going to do like a work from home day, which is kind of out of the ordinary for her. So, she's taking baby steps to try to reduce some of her workload and making sure that she's using her time off, especially her sick time, which she has a tremendous amount of hours available. I think we calculated it. I think it's something like 12 or 13 weeks of sick time. And if she were to leave, like she doesn't get paid out for that. And I'm like, that's time off that you've earned. And they also have a policy at her work where she can take 5 days consecutively without needing to have a doctor's note or anything like that, which I thought was
Wow.
pretty significant. I think at my
Yeah.
work it was 3 days. So that's something that I have seen signs of her working towards making sure that she's using her time off as opposed to hoarding it.
Yeah. Definitely use it. Use it or lose it.
Yeah. Here's a fun one. Episode 20 was titled Can Elliot Retire Soon? And in it, we discussed both the financial and the psychological factors of where you were at that point in time and what you were thinking and kind of what would need to happen in order for you to reach a certain milestone.
Yeah. Soon's all relative, right?
Yeah.
And I continue to wrangle and wrestle with that question even to date. But as we just talked about on our previous recording here, my finger to the wind right now says I am within a year of calling it quits.
Yeah. That's exciting.
If I could somehow wave my magic wand and raise my hand and say, hey, work, you can get rid of me now. I'll take a little less money. I think I would be waving ecstatically. So I know some people in the space certainly have said, yeah, here's how you can try and negotiate a quit or retire early or anything else like that. But yeah, I definitely have a series of benefits that kind of cause my date to be what it is.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Episodes 21 and 23, we talked about side hustles, both from the perspective of my experience and then just like the benefits that they can provide. And I just put a note on here that I recently earned $10. I guess you could call it a side hustle. That may be, aside from rental income and just market increases and things of that nature, that might be the first money that I have earned since I retired 14 months ago. And it wasn't even something that I was wanting or expecting, or I tried to say no to it. But at one of my rental houses, the next door neighbor and I share a fence, and he's an elderly man. And he came out one day and he said, he just asked me if I could reattach a couple of pickets to the wooden fence, the wooden privacy fence between our yards. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And to go into his yard to do it. And he's like handing me a $10 bill. And I'm like, no, no, no. This will take me like just a few seconds. He's like, no, no, take it, take it, take it. I'm like, okay. And I think it was it's almost like it made him feel good to be able to do that for me. So I accepted it. It's still in my cabinet. I haven't spent it yet. Not sure what I'm going to spend it on, but really, I feel like it might be the first $10 that I've earned since I've been retired. And he actually is looking to get part of his fence replaced. And I'm like, yeah, we can just figure out how many pieces are needed, and I can pick them up and replace those for you. And he's like, well, let me know how much I'm going to owe you. I'm like, you don't owe me anything. This fence divides our property lines. I don't care. I'll fix it for you. He's a super nice guy, but yeah, so I might end up earning a little bit more money.
There you go. Well, maybe if you're coming to the Phi Social this week, you can spend it on your first round at the bar.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have said no to a lot of opportunities in the last 14 months. I think that was a bit of a surprise to me because I had made my list upon list, like you have joked with me several times. In that, I had make furniture for other people. I had some handyman work that I knew would be opportunities to earn some extra money, and I've actually said no to a lot of it. I've had some opportunities come my way, and I've either had to say no or not now, that I can't do that right now. But it's interesting, and it's also one of those other levels or layers of confidence that I have in the back of my mind that if things were to go sideways, there is always potential to make some amount of money if I needed to.
That's right. Easy to turn the faucet back on if you are so inclined.
Yeah. And so that maybe that's something that you can always keep in the back of your mind as well. I mean, once you say, like you said, turn off the faucet, it doesn't mean you can't turn it back on or just have it dripping or trickling to some extent.
That's right. Yeah, no, I certainly have expressed that to Dawn as well, is just because if I were to theoretically walk away from my job doesn't mean that I'm never going to make another dollar in my entire life. I don't think I'm bound to make $10 somewhere.
Episode 26, we titled it Time to Leave the Fire Community. This was actually our most popular episode overall. I assume it was because of the title, and it got some traction. I think it got pushed out on Spotify to more audience members. And it was a fun one where we just reflected on the Mad Scientist's post that he had shared whenever he released his little EP. I think it was in the winter with his new songs. And if you paid for the EP, he provided you with this little like insider blog post that he created, and we read through some of the points together and discussed it. And that was a fun one. And I just put a note on here that I was going to ask you, like, do you feel like we're getting more involved? Because we talked a little bit about it in that conversation of like, yeah, maybe we can step away because we've achieved essentially what we want to achieve, or there's still things that we're getting out of the community as a whole. And I know we talked about some things don't necessarily pertain to us anymore, but to some degree, I would say that maybe we're both inserting ourselves into the community a bit more in the last like 5 or 6 months since we did that, since we had that conversation.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly the number of Phi activities that I do in a given month is much more than even what I would say our Choose Phi local chapter advertises, right? I mean, I would say the number of events that typically happen in a month, just based off of what is quote unquote advertised on the Choose FI St. Louis event space, is The first Thursday of the month, and then usually a social at some brewery thereafter. And then there's also the I think the I don't remember the exact name of it, but the women's kind of social gathering. So there's kind of those three events within the month. But of course, like you and I having this conversation, I would say kind of meets that checks that box. So generally add 4 to 5 more of those things in a given month. So all of a sudden, instead of averaging once or twice a month, now I'm averaging probably 1.5 to 2 times a week. And that's assuming that also we don't have a random get together with 5 people out doing something else. So, yeah, I mean, I think it is. I'll reference Brad's Choose FI newsletter again in this episode. I'm going to go back to Brad's weekly email from this week was also about kind of lifestyle inflation and how hanging out with other people outside of the FI community changes our actions, right? And so I talked about in earlier podcasts how, yeah, hey, maybe there's other people around me that are thinking about doing a home edition or have done home edition. And so whether I'm really intentionally thinking about that or not, that's guiding and changing my actions, right? Is everybody uses the quote of you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so if you're spending time with people that are inside the FI community, your behavior is going to be very different than if you're spending time with people outside of the FI community. So yeah, to get back to your original question, as I've meandered along this path, I would say that I've tried to dial it back a little bit. That doesn't just become my identity. Is just hey, you're that FI guy, or that you're just replacing one thing with another. But I think by and large, it's creating that community so that when eventually I take this new life transition, that I'm set up for success on the other side of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I was thinking along the lines of you even participated in presenting the Phi 201 within the last couple of months, and your name was mentioned in the episode that for Phi 201 on Choose FI as a presenter with Alan, and that was pretty cool. So it's like you've you've kind of gotten into the community, I would say, a little bit further than maybe you were at that point when we had that conversation. And not to say that I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong with that. I'm just it's interesting how things have evolved. And in fact, I don't remember if I told you this or not, but I did reach out to Kristen, one of our admins, and offered to do a real estate 101 presentation for the group. And she was like super excited to have me do that. And so now maybe I was a little bit too gung ho. I was like, oh, there's my buddy Elliot up there presenting, and I can do this too. And but it's probably a good thing because I need to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and try hard things, and I think it would be beneficial to the group. But yeah, we're both taking the opportunity. We're going to Camp Fi here later this year. Your point about how it's sort of like keeping up with the Joneses outside of the fire community. I could make the argument that there's a keeping up with the Joneses within the fire community too. And
Yep.
the thing that I see here lately that has I've kind of reflected on from my own just awareness is that there's a lot of people that do a lot of cool things in the fire group. And our friend Kristen, she's got Five Friends Travel. My wife Laurie and I are going on a safari later this year with that group and looking forward to that. But then there's also like trips that she's going to have next year. And we're like, oh, that sounds cool. Maybe a trip to Japan is on the horizon. Well, I think it's all sold out now, but like that sounded really cool. probably wouldn't have been on my radar otherwise. There's all these like Amberly Grants has the Fintalks cruise, which I've heard some people talk about recently. I'm like, oh, that would be really cool. They're going to Antarctica in a couple, maybe it's next year or the year after. So I'm like seeing things as opportunities within the fire community where I'm maybe more it's on my radar and I'm like, oh, I want to do that, but I may not have necessarily thought of it on my own had that not been occurring. So it's kind of interesting that it's creating sort of like a I wouldn't say it's like a fear of missing out, but it's like a
That's what I would have called it. Is I would have said it is FOMO by and large, or just yeah, the five marketing
yeah.
machine at work. Yeah, no, it's a real thing.
And we can't do it all, obviously, but I know there are some in the community that do quite a bit, and that's really cool. I'm really happy for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also had a comment on that episode from our buddy Tim Joyner. He said, "Great pod, interesting conversation." From that episode where we were talking about time to leave the fire community, and just want to shout out Tim and his wife Gwen. They do the Fire Takes podcast. They've been on a little bit of a hiatus here lately, but they came back and they were some of the ones that were talking about all their awesome travels that they've done recently. This was a episode they had here in June where they were talking about they went on the cruise. They I think we're in Alaska. They've got some upcoming trips planned and like all the things that they're doing. And it's like, oh, that sounds really cool. So
That's right. Well, and I know that Gwen and Tim both know Brandon from the Mad Scientist personally, so I mean, I think it's great to see that doing what you really say that you should be doing, right? Is that we solve for money problems so that we can go live the rest of our life. Like our life isn't just meant to always just be talking about FI. So I certainly think that Brandon's article resonated quite a bit with me, and that's great to hear that I think the rest of our listeners agreed, or at least, hey, it was a clickbaity enough title that got some listens. So hopefully you found enjoyment from it as well.
yeah, I think it was the latter. Episode 29 was missing work and improving health. And I think in this one, it came out in early February of this year. And we were talking about being accountability partners for each other. And I know for myself, there was some things that I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to get a primary care physician, which I did, and went and had a lot of tests done and everything checked out really well. I also wanted to make sure that got a colonoscopy. So I have that scheduled. That's in August, actually. So I'm not looking forward to that just because of the stuff that you have to do prior to the actual exam, but we'll get there. And then the other thing that I needed to do was to find a dentist, which I still haven't done. I did have a comment, I think it was on the YouTube side for that, where someone had suggested you can probably just go back to your previous dentist and pay the cash amount, and it's not going to be very expensive to do like a cleaning and x-ray and just like an annual like checkup. So it's probably something that I should do because I haven't been to the dentist in quite some time now since I have left employment. Well, I think it was like 6 months prior to that. So it's actually been almost like a year and a half for me. And that's something I need you to hold me accountable for.
All right, Josh, I'll keep you accountable to the dentist. Yeah, obviously, you holding me accountable on the other side. Yeah, I will say, yeah, I didn't progress in the way that I would have liked to, but I am now at least going to physical therapy twice a week, and like I mentioned on the last episode, going to see a therapist here again. So while not the physical health in its entirety, I think at least I'm making some progress. So
And I would
it's
say
not lost.
to put a positive spin on it, you were open to the opportunity to work on some things. It just went in a different direction than you thought was the direction you were going to take back in January. Let's keep it positive.
You're always that positive thinker, Josh.
Well, we know better than that. I don't know how much you want to talk about this one because we talked about it at length, but various episodes in our the 30s, the 30 through like 35 or 36, we talked about France. You went through the exercise of visiting France, talking about moving there. You guys were really close, and then you decided that it wasn't the best fit for your family at this time.
Yeah.
We can cut this one out because I don't know if you want
No,
to.
no, 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 no. That's I was intentionally being deadpan. No, yeah, that is completely accurate. Is we hit Control Z for all those computer nerds out there is just did the old undo and yeah, staying present in the good old US of A. But I mean, as far as some of these other comments that we had in those 30s is talking about leaving social media, um, Amazon, etc. At the time, I stayed off of social media. I'm the only social media site I am on to date is LinkedIn, and that will only persist until I think that I retire, and then I will get rid of that as well. Then I guess you're gonna have to know my phone number or email to really get in touch with me, or it's gonna be back down to the good old days of the '90s where, as a kid, you left the house, and I don't know how mom and dad really got a hold of us was yell out the front door or call a house phone at somebody else's house. Is Elliot over there?
No, I haven't seen him.
Yep, fresh out. So I will say that we have gone back to using Amazon again. So that is one change that we brought back into our life. Yeah, I mean, nothing to say about that beyond it is super convenient.
Yeah.
So they have lowered the bar of friction between purchase and delivering at your doorstep to making that super convenient.
Just curious on the LinkedIn thing, what value do you get from that? Or is there a reason why, from a, like, because you said until I retire, is there something linked with your job that is beneficial?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, does your
Mm,
employer offer something through it that you're taking advantage of?
no.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there is some LinkedIn learning potentially, but no, there's really not a reason for it. I think it's I had this conversation recently with somebody actually, I believe that was at a Phi gathering. I'm pretty certain.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. About kind of the signaling that goes on by being on LinkedIn and liking people's posts and
Hmm.
posting your own corporate BS that goes along with it. So I won't have that diatribe, but I use it for networking is
Hmm.
really the only reason that I have it. I did have multiple people actually reach out within the last week about asking for my help in trying to help others gain employment at my employer. So things like that.
Yeah.
Just a way to maintain relationships with old coworkers, I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So,
And just like you mentioned, I don't I have not deleted my Facebook account or any social media accounts that I might have, but I do not have them on my phone and therefore I don't look at them. But recently I did have Facebook on my phone and I found myself like clicking on it. It's so oddly addictive that you'll click on it and then just start scrolling and you're like, what am I do? Like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I felt like somebody else is controlling my body and my
yeah.
eyes to watch this thing. And so I got rid of it. And something similar happened with Instagram too. It was actually something that was a post. I can't remember what it was, something to do with the city that I live in, where it was like, hey, there's this information, but you couldn't see all of it. And I clicked on it, and it was Instagram. And like you used to be able to click on Instagram and just pull it up in your browser, but you
Uh-huh.
can't do that anymore. And so I
They want
downloaded
you to
it.
have that account.
Yeah. Well, I downloaded it and I was able to sign in. And then next thing I know, I'm looking at it days
Scrolling.
later.
Yep.
And so I got rid of that off the phone too. But I never look at these things on my laptop or on any kind of other device. So as long as they're not there on my phone, I don't pay any attention to them.
Yeah. I will say I mean, Facebook has a few features that still give me FOMO of not having it. Of certain groups have conversations that I think are valuable. I know our buddy Stephen Boyer, who runs Camp FI, he puts events out there for Camp FI prior to the actual event. And so if I wasn't going with like a group like I am right now, I would feel almost obligated to have an account just to, whether it was coordinating rides or just see what's going on, like certain things that I wish it wasn't on the book face, but it is.
Now that you mention it, that might be what caused me to put it back on my phone was I saw that message from him for when we're going
Mhm.
and it said, make sure that you are connected to whatever the alumni group. And then I went in and made sure that I could see any posts that were coming through. It was like, make sure you say that you're going and then others, you can see a list of who all is going to be in attendance for the one that you're attending. So that's what got me back on it. And then I was hooked and was looking at it daily. And I'm like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, well, especially because even if I got back on it just for that explicit purpose, my entire feed's going to be full of ads and other things that aren't even the people that I care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. Episode 42. This one was more recent where I posed the question to you, should I take an early withdrawal from my 401k to fund discretionary spending? This one got a lot of feedback, both on all of the platforms that I just mentioned, and it also kind of came up in our local group, and I had members of our local community reaching out to me and offering suggestions. So I got a lot of feedback on this one, and just to for context, it was we were looking at the opportunity to do some work on our house. We thought that it was going to cost us around $60,000. I thought instead of pulling it from cash right now and basically depleting our cash and or brokerage account, why don't we take a withdrawal from our 401k, eyes wide open, pay the penalty, pay the taxes, and get this work done that we wanted to have done. And I got a lot of feedback saying, maybe you should think about it from this way or do a hybrid approach and that sort of thing. So I decided to hold off on it temporarily. And then I started getting some of the quotes on the work that I thought was going to cost a certain amount of money was going to be exponentially more expensive. For instance, I had roughly budgeted $60,000 for everything. And one of the projects, a new deck came back and it was over $60,000. And I was like, that's absurd. I'm not going to do it. I would rather just build the deck myself. And that's just my own. Laurie and I had the conversation. We're like, we can do this. I mean, we have the footprint in place. It's essentially my next door neighbor is doing the exact same thing with a friend right now, where he's removed his deck that's rotten and replacing it, the footprint, with a new decking. So I'm like, I'm not going to spend that kind of money for a deck. It's not worth it to me. I'll go a different route. So haven't done any withdrawals. Don't really plan to. I don't see that in our future. But I thought it was a good, I guess, just exercise to think through overall, like what would be the pros and cons of doing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did have some comments on that one that I wanted to highlight. One, Stangman89, he said you should, or they said you should be able to use rule of 55. As long as you're retired from your employer, it's 55, not 59 and a half. And I don't know how old this person thinks that I am, but I am only 49. I'm not in my 50s yet. It kind of gave me pause whenever I first read
Don't you
that.
put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
That's
That's
right.
right.
So I did double check, and the rule of 55 only applies that if you leave your employer in the year that you turn 55, that you can withdraw from your 401k penalty free. And then there was another email that came through from Joe Salberry. He just wrote a very thoughtful email. He had an Excel spreadsheet even that he shared, and he's like, hey, if you do these things and just maybe time them over a period of 3 years, here's a way that you can fund those projects without tipping into your 401k. It was just like, wow, I can't believe somebody went to that level of thought and put all that together to share with me. So I thought that was really, really nice. And there's some great people that are listening to our conversations here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. I mean, I know that we've both had people walk up to us. I know just even in our local chapter that I had no idea actually like list to the podcasts and give insightful comments and kudos and things like that. So yeah, really appreciate anybody that listens and takes the time to give us any sort of feedback. So
Yeah.
thanks to both those commenters.
Episode 31. This was one of my favorite conversations as I kind of reflect back. It was called The Great Transition from FTE to RE, or from full time employee to retired early. And one of the comments that we got on that one was from Sarah. I'm not sure if this is our friend Sarah, but she commented, I think I must have said something along the lines of, people ask me, what do you do all day? And she said, what do you do? Whatever I want.
Right. Whatever I want, what I want, with who I want.
That's right.
That is the dream.
Yeah. Episode 35. Any regrets from your fire journey? We had someone, I actually just saw this comment for the first time today. I don't know if you saw this at the time, or do you know this person?
I don't. I kind of figured that you knew them.
No, I don't. So Dory McClellan said, Josh, great insights. I feel like Elliot could have dug a little deeper with a winking emoji. She said, great work, guys. Thanks for doing what you do.
Yep. Well, thanks, Dory. Keeping me honest. Yeah, I think that's generally true for any of my real prep work around here. Is it could be a little bit better. I could do work a little bit harder. But we do what we can.
I'm certainly not keeping score over here, but we did talk before we hit record earlier today that Elliot's in a different stage in life than I am. He's got three little kids at home and he still works full time. So different set of circumstances than I have, where early retirement and my kids are all in their 20s now.
Hey, remember, Josh, money only solves money problems. So this might persist well beyond any
Oh,
retirement date.
oh no, no. We're gonna have to flip the script the other way once you pull the trigger.
That's right.
Episode 36 was, why did we pay off our low interest mortgage early? This was just Laurie and I, the little short one that we did whenever we were actually up against the clock, because I think we ran out of episodes in the can. And it was a fun one. I had to twist Laurie's arm to join me. We just gave our thoughts on why we paid off our mortgage early, and she chimed in, and it was pretty well received. So we got some feedback. One comment was from Sash. She said it was great to hear from Laurie, bring her back for more. I like the look on her face when you were discussing the 5 account system. Clearly not her favorite approach, which that was in reference to, at one point I was like, we need to have all these different savings accounts to do all these different things. And she was like, I think she just kind of like hung her head and rolled her eyes and shook her head. On that same episode, we also had another comment from Dory McClellan where she said, this was a fun glimpse into your life. Great job, Laurie. So maybe at some point we'll have Laurie back on the show. I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it, but actually, I wouldn't mind, as we kind of wrap up here for episode number 50. We're coming up on a year. I know you and I have talked about it a little bit briefly from time to time about having guests or bringing on other people that can contribute a little bit to some of these conversations, and just starting with our wives potentially, or our friends or whomever, I think would be something that I would be up for as we move into the next 50 episodes.
That's right. No, I certainly don't have any issues with that. I think all I'm hearing you say is you want to add a third to this thruple, huh? But no, I think there's a lot to be gained from hearing other insights just beyond our own, and also a great opportunity for us to also hear from other people and continue to have fun conversations. I think that was the whole reason that we wanted to have these conversations in the first part, is just that it was solving our own problems, but also just having conversations that we were going to have anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to rely on you and all of your skills from LinkedIn for networking so that you can bring all these people into the conversation.
Yeah. We finally found my use case, Josh, is my value to the podcast will be known. Yes.
One other thought that I had, I'm just throwing it out there, is we talked about bringing along the little lavalier mics that I have that we can maybe record a conversation when we're at Camp Fi together in a couple weeks. And that might be something that we can explore as we go forward as well. We don't always have to be on this platform where we're sitting at our individual desks in our homes and talking into these mics. I thought maybe why couldn't we just go have a beer somewhere and hit record with our little lab mics and touch on a topic that might be on our topic list and knock it out that way in person as opposed to virtually.
Yeah, you're going to get a very different conversation, I think. But no,
I said during
of
one
course,
beer.
yeah, exactly. No, all kidding aside, certainly not opposed to that.
Well, I'll just wrap up saying that it's been a really good run. I think I've learned a lot. It's been very helpful. I look forward to it all the time. I'm looking forward to the next 50 episodes and beyond and just continuing this thing. And we've received a lot of great feedback, a lot of positive support. And as always, we have those links down below. And I'll just kind of conclude with, we did receive one email from someone who said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a podcast too. How much money do you guys make from yours?" And I don't know if you remember that one or not, but
No,
yeah,
I don't remember that one.
your laughter though is
Yeah, yeah,
very key
telling.
to, yeah, very telling
Yeah.
to the answer there. Is we've not made so much as a dollar off of this. It's all
But we are definitely negative.
negative.
We'll
Yeah.
tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not a money-making endeavor, at
No.
least for us.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
I don't know that we ever have had that desire, or I mean maybe once upon a time we're like, maybe we can earn enough to support the things that we have to pay for, like the hosting and the script, and maybe pay ourselves back for the equipment that we purchased. But that's a long shot, and that's quite a lot of money actually. So
right. Yeah. Yes, when looking at the expenses, it's not a zero number. So as much as you may think this is just a free endeavor, it's not. So give all your local podcasters at least a thumbs up, pat on the back. That at least is enough. Thanks, I think, to the two of us. But if you want to throw us a few dollars, we always have the buy me a coffee if you're so inclined.
yeah, if anyone
Um,
made it this far, we do have links
yeah,
in our show notes that I don't think anyone has ever clicked on, except for
yeah,
except to email us something.
that's right. And I know over on YouTube, we used to get quite a few comments from the user 70QQ. We haven't heard from them in a little bit, but there were always some good comments over there on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And I know that personally, I also get a fair amount of just in-person comments. So thank you to all of those people that do listen to us ramble on each and every week for 50 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I almost kind of cringe a little bit whenever I get that direct like feedback. Where like, hey, I listened to your episodes and they're really good. And I'm like, oh,
Like,
really?
oh God, yeah. What did I say?
It's much easier to get feedback from someone I don't know, I think.
Yeah,
But anyway,
nice.
this was fun and it went a lot longer than I expected it to.
Yes, fun as always.
Yep. All right, Elliot. See you in the next
Sounds
one.
good, Josh. Yep. See you soon.